Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm here to talk about the stress and toxic jobs and ways they can harm you. And I'm going to review some of the research because I've been talking about this. I think, it might be hard to believe in terms of the significant harm that toxic jobs can have on you. So I'm going to review some of the research that's out there. Some of you may not believe me when I talk about when other Black women have talked about ways that toxic jobs can harm you. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to just take a moment to review some of the research that's out here. And I will also put the information about how to access this research and articles in the description section. Okay. So you will be able to access them. So I'm just going to talk about what the research says or what the articles say, and then I will refer you to, if you want further reading, that you can check these things out, okay? So the first one is to focus on Black women and negative work experiences. So there was an article done talking about the microaggressions towards Black women. This was June 19, 2020. And it talks about, I think it was in Forbes, it talks about tone policing. So that's situations in which Black women, when we're in the workplace, that we are very mindful of how we are saying things, the tone, because people may say to us that our tone is aggressive or that people are intimidated by us based upon our tone. So there might be a lot of tone policing. I know that for me, when I was previously at a toxic job, it was not, it was more so like, oh, you're so articulate, right? Which is another microaggression, but you're so articulate. But, sometimes the way you say things, right? So again, the tone policing. Also, there were notations in the article talking about when Black women promote, that there's this assumption that she just got lucky, that it's not really based upon her talents and her hard work or anything like that, but that she got lucky and or that she was hired and or promoted because of diversity. So be known as a diversity hire. In the article, they also talked about the pay gap that we still see for Black women in the workplace. And for Black women who are in the medical field, there have been reports, and I remember even a Black woman that I interviewed on my channel talked about how people, even in a hospital setting, they introduce themselves as the medical doctor. There's still like a disbelief that they're the medical doctor. So they might go through a full examination of someone, and then the person will ask, when will the real doctor come in? Okay, so that was the first article that I wanted to talk to you about. And then I wanted to reference Pets a Threat. So, Pets a Threat, you've heard me talk about this in my previous videos. I will put the information about how to access the research about Pets a Threat. But again, Pets a Threat was created by three Black women researchers, Dr. Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey, Dr. Keisha Thomas, and Dr. Rosemary Phelps. And Pets a Threat deals with when a Black woman comes into the workplace that, due to her outstanding work, really want her to do the work. They maybe seek her out. She comes in, she does an outstanding job, and then she gets treated like the office pet. Oh, they love her. She's so smart. She's helped us out so much. Okay. And then when the Black woman starts outshining other people in the workplace, then it shifts in terms of how she's seen and how she's treated. She is treated like a threat. And there's a lot of negative outcomes in terms of when you are seen and treated like a threat. I know I've been there. Okay. So, again, I will put that research about Pets a Threat. And I have had the privilege of interviewing two of the authors of Pets a Threat. So, Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey and Dr. Keisha Thomas. I've done several interviews with them on my YouTube channel. So I will put the Pets a Threat playlist in my description section in terms of when I've talked to them, and then other topics that I've had in relation to or that have made reference to Pets a Threat. So it's very fascinating. In fact, many Black women that I talked to have had the experience of Pets a Threat, but they didn't know the word, right? And they didn't know that there was research out there. So there's research that's called Pets a Threat. The third thing I want to share with you in terms of articles was an article written about the glass cliff. And this was on CNN. And the title of this was Very Rarely Is It As Good as It Seems? Black women in leadership are finding themselves on the glass cliff. And the glass cliff deals with when a Black woman is brought in, again, because she's doing very well. She's, they seek her out in terms of her expertise. She is brought into a situation that is basically an impossible situation to fix. So the organization is in crisis, is really flailing. They bring the Black woman in, and it's impossible for her to save the organization, not only because of the condition in which she was brought in, as the organization was already crumbling, but many times she doesn't have the support needed to even do a good job. Okay, so that's Glass Cliff. The next one is an article that I saw, and it was called More Ambitious, Less Supported at Work. So even though the article talked about, Black women, our competence is often questioned, but we are very ambitious. Like we want to promote and we work really hard, but our competence is often questioned, even though we put in the extra work so that we can ascend, so that we can promote. And we're also subjected to very disrespectful behaviors in which people may demean us. That might mean, even though you have the ambition to promote, being passed over repeatedly for promotions. I have interviewed Black women who have talked about that. And this article made reference or also noted that Black women, we are the fastest growing group in America in terms of entrepreneurship, right? So we are basically getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. In honor to Fannie Lou Hamer, one of my sheroes, in terms of her quote, we're getting sick and tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired in these toxic work environments. And more of us are just going out on our own and creating our own businesses. Okay. So that was the fourth thing I want to share with you in terms of studies and research and just information about this topic. The next is self promotion. So there was an article that says a new study finds that Black employees are penalized for self promotion. This was in Forbes, October 4th, 2022. And it talks about as Black people that we have this encounter sometimes in the workplace where other groups are encouraged, supported, to really talk about their accomplishments in the workplace, their achievements, and like kind of selling themselves or kind of boosting themselves up about what they have accomplished so they stand out from other people in the workplace. However, when Black people do that, what the article said is that Black people are penalized for doing that. So again, think about if you're in the workplace, you want to promote, you are trying to show people about your accomplishments, and people are looking at you side-eyed because you're talking about your accomplishments, but otherwise they would overlook your accomplishments. So it's like you can't win either way. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to you about is weathering. So weathering, and this article was weathering and age patterns of allostatic load scores among Black and whites in the US. And this was done by the National Library of Medicine. And what's so fascinating about this is it talks about allostatic load deals with when you're dealing with chronic stress. And the chronic stress can impact you to a degree where you just kind of just, your body kind of just gives out, or even your mental health is impacted. So it looks at the role that chronic stress can have on your health. And so the study looked at ways that these chronic stress conditions can contribute to early health deterioration for Black people. And what they found was that there were racial differences of Blacks and whites in terms of the allostatic load scores, right? So like chronic stress. And the differences were not explained by poverty. They also found, this is really noteworthy, that poor and non-poor Black women had the highest and the second highest probability of high allostatic load scores. Again, we're looking at the chronic stress. So when we look at chronic stress, okay, so it's talking about like you're starting to develop health conditions earlier because of the chronic stress, right? So it's a weathering of your organs, basically. So I'll put that information description section. So when we think about weathering, we think about chronic stress, we think about all the impact. I do want to tell you about research that I found by the American Heart Association. And this was March 1st, 2023. And it notes the article is Racism in Employment, Housing, Police Interactions May Raise Black Women's Heart Disease Risk. And it noted that Black women are reported to experiencing racism in relation to employment, housing, and police interactions had 26% higher risk of heart disease than those who do not experience racism in these areas. Then I found another article, and this was February 19th, 2019. This was research done in collaboration with the National Institutes of Health and the American Heart Association Go Red for Women research. And it noted that exposure to the article was exposure to chronic stress increases cardiovascular disease. And the research noted that compared to white women, Black women have more cardiovascular disease risk factors. We develop cardiovascular disease earlier, and we have higher cardiovascular disease mortality rates. And it noted particularly for ages 35 to 54. And I wanted us to just sit with that because the demographic that is the largest on my YouTube channel is that age group. Okay, so again, be mindful of the impact that the stress can have not only on our mental health, but our physical health. So when I talk about, toxic jobs and impacting the quality of life, and I also talk about the quantity of your life, this is the research. And I wanted to share the research because I don't want you to think that I'm just making things up or I might have seen something, I'm misinterpreting it. No, I'm sharing you the research and I will put the research so you can find it and read it yourself, just to emphasize that this is really a life or death situation. Okay. So recognize the signs because this can really harm you. So that was the American Heart Association. And then I found an Essence. So this was an Essence article, July 26, 2023. And it notes the title states nearly 40% of Black women have quit jobs because they didn't feel emotionally safe. So I've talked about psychological safety as well before. And psychological safety, and we know that as Black women, as we come into the workplace, we are generally very aware of how people might be perceiving us. And we have a certain level of, being aware of our situation. We may not feel totally safe in the first place because of issues of racism and sexism. However, when we don't feel psychologically safe, there's something else going on in that work environment that makes us feel that we are not respected, we are not valued, our worth is not affirmed, we are not in opportunities to grow in our work environments. And some of the other articles that I mentioned or studies refers to this. And so when I think about, and even in the article, they talked about Black women not feeling protected in the workplace. And in fact, there was another article I want to share with you about in relation to Black women not receiving the support from managers. Awesome. I didn't mention that. So there's an article that talks about, Black women that we're kind of just out there, right? So again, nobody's protecting us in the workplace. So when things happen, when things go down, there's nobody who really has our back, okay? So I wanted to mention that as well, just in terms of the stress that we experience. And when I see this, when I see all of this research that confirms and supports a lot of things that I've been saying, right? So I've seen this research in bits and pieces, but to see it all together is very powerful and very disturbing, in terms of how so many of us are terrorized in a toxic workplace. And when I was reading the Essence article, in relation, nearly 40% of Black women have quit jobs because they didn't feel emotionally safe. And it talked about how Black women have reported feeling unprotected in the workplace. And it made me think about Malcolm X, in his quote that the Black woman is the most unprotected woman in America, right? And so that is our experience to this day, that many of us have had this experience. And I just want to say, if you have had any of these experiences where you're in a toxic work environment, again, this information that I'm sharing with you, it's an opportunity to take self-reflection to a higher level, because this is a lot of research. It's a lot of research saying the same thing that I'm saying, and the importance of you pausing. Pay attention to the signs that a toxic job might be harming you. Please get the support that you need, whatever that might be. Please get that support. And if the toxic job is harming you to a point where you're experiencing physical and or psychological symptoms, self-reflect on that and really think about if this is the place that you want to continue to be. You may have some thinking that all jobs are this way and I just have to just deal with it. That is not true. We have to reject that. That is not true. You may believe that because of maybe things you've encountered, maybe other people are telling you this, but there are other ways to make money. You can get another job. You could take whatever skills and talents you have at that job and find another job if that's what you choose to do. Or as you saw in as I mentioned about other articles, they've talked about Black women are the fastest growing group of people who are creating their own businesses. So you have options. I want to remind you, and I cannot emphasize it enough, you have options. And the reason I want to say that is that when we don't feel like we have options, number one, we stay in situations that are harming us. Number two, that can contribute to feelings of depression, because when you don't feel like you have options, you feel stuck and you start feeling helpless and hopeless. I don't want you to feel that way. Okay. So, again, I'm here to share information with you. I will share all this research in the description section if you want to take a deeper dive. Okay. So, the research is out there, and I hope that you follow up on the research, that you listen to yourself, you be honest with yourself about what you need for yourself so that your life is fulfilled and that you live a long life and that the quality of your life is good, that you're not stressing every day, you're not dreading any day of your life. Excuse me. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to dread any day of your life. Okay. So, as I'm signing off, please give this video a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know to suggest this video to other Black women who might be in similar situations. Also, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting as we climb consulting, wellness services. So, as I am healing and continuing to heal from a toxic job, thank God that I was able to leave. And again, think about what your options may be. And as I am lifting, I'm reaching out for you and I'm trying to help as many Black women as I can to leave and heal from toxic jobs. The ask is that you also not only heal and start healing and help yourself, but that you also reach out to other Black women and that you help another Black woman or other Black women. And one way that you can do that is by sharing this video with her, sharing with her the research, all the research that I noted in the description section of this video, and just support her, uplift her. Okay. So show yourself loving kindness. Don't beat yourself up that you have been in a job or you have been in a job longer than you would have wanted to be in that job. There are reasons why you were there. Don't beat yourself up for that. Many times we're at a toxic job because we need a paycheck. So don't beat yourself up for that. However, also allow yourself to think about, be open to, exploring options. Okay. So I'm signing off, and I hope that you found this video to be useful. And also let me know if there's other topics that you want for me to cover on my YouTube channel. Okay. So take care, and I will see you later. Bye bye.